Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Mama, I couldn't find it. Found out. Verse 7 yesterday.
This is
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 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 So today we'll discuss Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 18, texts 8 and 9. We'll chant 8 together, I guess. Sa, Gam, Udastat, Salilasya, Gochare, Sagamudastat Salilasya Gochare, Vinyasya Tasyam Adadhat Swasatvam, Vinyasya Tasyam Adadhat Swasatvam, Abhishtuto Vishvasraja Prasunai, Abhishto Vishvasraja Abhishtuto Vishvasraja Prasunai, Apuryamana Vibudhai Pashyato Dehe, Apuryamano Vibudhai Apuryamano Vibudhai Pashyatore. Did I go off the tracks there? Sagamudastat Salilasya Gochare, Vinyasya Tasya Madadhat Swasatvam, Abhishtuto Vishwasruja Prasad, Abhishtuto Vishwasruja Prasunai, Apuryamano Vibudhai Pashatore, Sagamudastat Salilasya Gochare, Vinyasya Tasya Maradhatsva Sattvam, Abhishtuto Vishvasruja Prasunai, Apuryamano Vibhutai Pashyatore. Others, please. Synonyms. Saha, the Lord. Gam, the earth. Udastat, on the surface. Salilasya, of the water. Gochare, within his sight. Vinyasya, having placed. Tasyam, to the earth. Adadhat, he invested. Swa, his own. Sattvam, existence. Abhishtutaha, praised. Vishvasraja, by Brahma, the creator of the universe. Prasunahi, by flowers. Apuryamanaha, becoming satisfied. Vibudhai, by the demigods. Pashyataha, while looking on. Ade, the enemy. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. The Lord placed the earth within his sight on the surface of the water and transferred to her all his own energy in the form of the ability to float on the water. While the enemy stood looking on, Brahma, the creator of the universe, extolled the Lord, and the other demigods rained flowers on him. Responsively, please. The Lord placed the earth, within his sight, on the surface of the water, and transferred to her his own energy in the form of the ability to float on the water. While the enemy stood looking on, Brahma, the creator of the universe, extolled the Lord, and the other demigods rained flowers on him. Srila Prabhupada's purport. Those who are demons cannot understand how the Supreme Personality of Godhead floated the earth on the water. But to devotees of the Lord, this is not a very wonderful act. Not only the earth, but many, many millions of planets are floating in the air, and this floating power is endowed upon them by the Lord. There's no other possible explanation. The materialists can explain that the planets are floating by the law of gravitation. But the law of gravitation works under the direction, the control or direction of the Supreme Lord. That is the version of the Bhagavad Gita which confirms by the Lord's statement that behind the material laws of nature, or nature's law, behind the material laws or nature's laws, and behind the growth, maintenance, production, evolution of all the planetary systems, behind everything is the Lord's direction. The Lord's activities could be appreciated only by the demigods headed by Brahma, and therefore, when they saw the uncommon prowess of the Lord in keeping the earth on the surface of the water, they showered flowers on him in appreciation of his transcendental activity. Text 19. Ranusaktam Tapani kalpam Mahagadam Kanchana Chitradamsam Marmanyabhikshnam Pratudantam Duruktai Prachandamanyu Prahasangstam Bhavashe. Translation: the demon who had a wealth of ornaments, bangles, and beautiful golden armor on his body chased the Lord from behind with a great mace. The Lord tolerated his piercing ill words, but in order to reply to him, he expressed his terrible anger. Purport: the Lord could have chastised the demon immediately, while the demon was deriding the Lord with ill words, but the Lord tolerated him to please the demigods and to show that they should not be afraid of demons while discharging their duties. Therefore, his toleration was displayed mainly to drive away the fears of the demigods, who should know that the Lord is always present to protect them. The demon's derision of the Lord was just like the barking of dogs, and the Lord did not care about it, since he was doing his own work in delivering the earth from the midst of the water. Materialistic demons always possess large amounts of gold in various shapes, and they think that a large amount of gold, physical strength, and popularity can save them from the wrath of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Mukhaṁ karoti vachalam pangum langhayate girim jatkripa tamaham bande Shri Gurun Dinataranam. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupakadamayam Tadati Swapadantikam. Pancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhobhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Sagamudas salilasya gochadevin yasya tasyamara tatsva sattvam abhishtuto vishvasvaja pasunayara puryamano vibhutai ashyatore. The Lord placed the earth within his sight on the surface of the water and transferred to her his own energy in the form of the ability to float on the water. While the enemy stood looking on, Brahma, the creator of the universe, extolled the Lord, and the other demigods rained flowers on him. Paranusaktam tapaniyo palkapam pakkalpam mahagaram kanchana chitradangsham marmanyabhikshnam pradudantam duruktai prachandamanyu prahasangs tapapase. The demon, who had a wealth of ornaments, bangles, and beautiful golden armor on his body, chased the Lord from behind with a great mace. The Lord tolerated his piercing ill words, But in order to reply to him, he expressed his terrible anger. So, if you want to know what the Lord says, you're going to have to. Oh, there it is. Show up the next few classes, because that's what's coming. We're being set up for that. So these two purports they highlight a couple of things. One is we see that the demons respond to the Lord's wonderful acts in different ways from those of the devatas and the devotees. But the demons were puzzled, maybe even out of envy, angered. Hiranyaksha was certainly angered by the Lord's lifting up the earth. Because he lifted up the fallen earth, Lord Varaha's name is, one of his names is Patita Uddharana. Patita Uddharana means he uplifts the fallen. That name is also applied to someone else whom I've mentioned recently. I was wondering if anybody was taking notes. Patita Uddharana, uplifter of the fallen. Lord Chaitanya. Lord Chaitanya is also called Patita Uddharan. There's a nice Bengali bhajan by Narottam Das Thakur. It starts with those words. Patita Uddharan or Gauda Hari. I can't remember the rest of it right now. I think it's a bhajan I'm probably going to teach myself. So because of this feature, because of this activity, the Lord is known as Patita Uddharan. He's very kind to the poor. I have a prayer that I say in the morning, and I open up by acknowledging the Lord as, I think I mentioned this before, as the origin of everything and the supremely powerful personality. And then I say, but you are also the ocean of mercy. You're very kind. You're very much inclined to the fallen, and very much inclined to the poor, and a friend to the fallen. So this is the Lord's position. He's a friend to the fallen. He uplifts them and brings them to spiritual life. And the devotees appreciate that. Here we see that all the devatas, Lord Brahma started praising the Lord, and all the other devatas started showering him with flowers, celebrating the Lord's amazing prowess, that he very easily picked up the earth from the bottom of the causal ocean, where it was sinking in the muck, I guess. I don't know what there is at the bottom of the causal ocean. But it was sunk to the bottom, and it was not in its right place. So the Lord uplifted it, and he set it, he gave it the power to float on the ocean, set it on the surface of the causal ocean, and kept it within sight while he dealt with Hiranyaksha. Three-dimensional chess, right? Maybe 11-dimensional chess. Maybe the Lord can play an 11-dimensional chess. So this is, and so the devatas saw this as praiseworthy. The demons will see this as impossible. They'll just say, it's some legend, some mythology, something that people made up to make their culture look like the coolest culture that ever was. So they dismiss it. They dismiss, they deride the Lord. And so Hiranyaksha was just chiding the Lord, oh, you pig, wandering around in the forest, digging up roots, looking for mushrooms and stuff. What do they use pigs to look? Truffles. They use pigs to look for truffles, which are a fungus that grows in the roots of certain trees, I guess, in the forest. So, not the kind of truffles you get at Trader Joe's, or the lint truffles that you get at the checkout stand at a lot of stores, but a different kind of truffle. More like the Savoy truffle, right? You have to have them all pulled out after the Savoy truffle. So, the Lord's Krishna tells us in the Bhagavad Gita that if we actually understand and appreciate the transcendental nature of his activities, janma karma cha me divyam evam yoviti tatvata, tyaktva deham punar janma naiti, mamiti surjan. Said, if we actually understand the transcendental nature of the Lord's appearance and activities, even as a boar, even as a fish, whatever form the Lord takes, then if we actually understand the transcendental nature of those appearances and those activities, then we never have to take birth in this material world again. Punara janma na jayaya. We conquer over the repetition of birth and death. And then mameti, so instead you come to me. So that we see in the first verse. The second verse, we see a little bit about the character of the demons. The Lord, as we'll find out tomorrow, didn't seem to take Hiranyaksha's insults very seriously. Srila Prabhupada says, and we'll see this in tomorrow's text, that it's just like the barking dogs. Prabhupada would say, the dogs may bark, but the caravan moves on. You've got a wagon train moving through a landscape, and if there are people around with dogs, they're moving past the dog's turf, the dogs are going to get upset. They're going to bark, try to chase them away. Just like sometimes when I would go out for a run, you'd encounter barking dogs in people's yards. And if they were on their leash, if they were fenced in, it's not a big deal. Let them bark. I would just congratulate them, thank them. Good job. See, look at me. I'm running away. I'm not going to bother you folks. I'm literally running away. Now, if they're not leashed, or they can get out somehow, I remember where we used to live, where we lived on the big island, our house out in Pune. I'd go for a run, or my former wife and I would go for a walk along our road, and maybe about third or half of a mile down from us was a family that owned 2 lots that they kept as a commercial nursery, wholesale nursery. It wasn't like a nursery that you go shopping. They grow plants for landscapers. And they had really big, really mean dogs. I don't remember what kind. Pit bulls, Rottweilers, whatever. Big and mean. And these dogs would dig under the fence, and they'd be able to get out sometimes. And they'd come after us. So if I ran, and I figured the dogs would be out, I would have to carry a stick, or if my wife and I went for a walk, we'd have to at least carry 1 stick, try to keep the dogs at bay as we got past their property. Another time, when we lived in Bhaktivedanta Village, I went out for a run, and the neighbors, I think that it was the neighbors just outside our gate, just next door, immediately adjacent to our property, had a dog. And one day this dog was loose. And I went running past the yard, and the dog came after me and just took a chunk out of my forearm. And I complained to the lady, and she said, that could have been, you could have done that on rose bushes or something like that. And I said, take a closer look. And she did, and she agreed to pay the doctor bill. So generally, we're not bothered by barking dogs. The Lord, he's the origin of everything, the supremely powerful personality. He's not going to be bothered by the barking of dogs. The only kind of barking that's really going to get his attention will be like Rumi's Love Dogs. There's a poem by Rumi called Love Dogs. And the way the poem goes is that there's this fellow is out, he's praying to God, and praying and praying and praying. Nothing's going on. There's apparently no response. And someone questions him, you getting any response from God? Well, then why are you praying? So he thinks about it and he gives up praying. And then later one spirit comes to him and he says, why did you give up praying? And he said, I didn't think anyone heard me. And he said, your prayer, that longing you felt in your prayer, that was God. He said, I didn't think God heard me. He says, no, the longing you felt in that prayer, that's God. Just think of the dogs who wail and wail and wail at separation from their master. Become one of those dogs. Become a love dog. So that's the only kind of dogs that are going to catch. Or his pet, Krishna's pet dog. Anybody know the name of Krishna? I think Krishna has 2 pet dogs. I don't remember one name. Anybody remember the names of his dogs? One is Vyagra. What? Oh. No, that's his pet Woody. Vyagra, which means tiger. I don't remember. I think he has 2 dogs. I can't remember the other one. Otherwise, that doesn't bother the Lord. The Lord is not, he's completely unfazed by all this yapping. Oh my God, I'm going to kill you, you arrogant punk. These planetary systems belong to us, the demons, and you can't come along and interfere. The Lord just, whatever. So he's going to keep the earth floating on the surface of the water of the causal ocean on one side, and take care of Hiranyaksha with the other. On the other, he can actually multitask. This is one of Krishna's qualities. He's one of his 64 main qualities that endear him. This is a quality that human beings can have to some small extent, that the gods can have to some greater extent, and that's that he's clever. He can accomplish multiple things with one action. So it's referred to as clever. I think that one is Vidagta. So the Lord can do that. But Hiranyaksha is so enamored of his wealth, just as the materialists are. I think we referred to this the other day. The bumper sticker that says, you used to see that says, "He who dies with the most toys wins." No, he who dies with the most toys dies. He has to leave the toys behind. Almost every actually spiritual culture will tell you that. Your consciousness, this stuff is matter, it's jada. You can't take it with you. It doesn't belong there. And the whole mentality that gives it value to us, that this is mine, this is my thermos bottle. Anybody ever see me freak out when I can't find my water bottle? Yeah, I'm wandering. It's like when you lose your keys, your glasses, your wallet, or your bead bag, or your phone, right? And now it's our water bottles. We lose our water bottle. It's like, oh my God, what am I going to do? So, I'll spend 20 minutes wandering around checking every place I can think of 4 times before I finally give up and end up sitting down on it or something like that, as I did the other day. So, this is a very special water bottle. This is the most valuable water bottle in the world to me because it's mine. See on the bottom it has my name. Well, it's probably worn off. This meanness, this I-ness that is invested in our wealth, it's going to fail us. These are called fallible soldiers. And I heard a really nice Bhagavad Gita class yesterday, and part of it was this really wonderful analogy that if I've heard it, it's been so long since I heard it that I didn't remember having heard it before. And let's see if I can do it without messing it up, because I just heard it the once. So there's a man is dying, an old man is dying, and he's attended by his 3 wives. And in his fear, is grasping. This is our problem in the material. This is the cause of our suffering, our grasping, right? Buddhists, this is one of the words that the Buddhists like to use. This grasping for things and pleasure and staying away from pain and all that kind of stuff. That's the cause of our distress. That seeking pleasure and trying to avoid pain. Krishna tells us in the Bhagavad Gita that that's the womb from which, literally, the womb from which our distress is born. Dukkha yonaya evate. This is certainly the cause of your distress, this hanging on, this grasping, this seeking of pleasure. So he's trying to hang on. So he says, who will come with me? Who will come with me? And so he looks at his first wife, and he says, will you come with me, my love? And she says, this is your journey. I don't have any business here. This is your journey. This is your adventure. You have to make this journey alone. You have to, what would we say? You have to fly your own airplane. So, no, I won't come with you. I want you to, I want you to make the most of this yourself. So he's let down. So he looks at his second wife, and he asks the second wife, will you come with me? And she said, no, it's been a good ride. We've had a lot of good years together. We laughed, we cried, we made children, we built an empire, all these things, whatever it was all wonderful. But you're at the end here, and I've got my eye on somebody else. So, no, I'm not going to go with you. And the third wife steps forward voluntarily. She said, although you've never thought of me, although you've never paid me any attention, I've always been here for you. I've always had your back. I will go with you. The first wife represents our wealth. Can't take it with you, right? We want to take all the stuff that we've got, all those toys that we've accumulated, all that so-called justification for higher education. But any rich man or woman, has to come face to face with the fact that they can't. It drives some of them nuts, like Howard Hughes. Howard Hughes was a madman at the end of his life. He was afraid of everything. He was paranoid about every person. He was afraid every person would take away his wealth. He was afraid that the germs would take away his wealth. So he's like one super germophobic guy. Wouldn't take care of himself, but I mean, it's just, and you know what? He was right. Time came and took away all his wealth. Boom. Bye-bye. And then the second wife represents our family members, those fallible soldiers. And they say, yeah, we've had fun. Yeah, but did I do it wrong? The first wife. No, that's the family members. Yeah, it's been a good ride. I'm sorry. The family members say, yeah, it's been a good ride, but this is for you. We're going to stay, we're going to stay behind you. We've got our own thing. We have our own program. We're going to have our own thing going. The second wife represents the wealth. And, you can't take it with you. And so the wealth is already going to somebody else. Maybe you've got a will or a trust, and, it's going to the kids, the wife and the kids or whatever. But the wealth is not going to go with you. The third wife represents the Atma, represents the self, the soul, who we neglect. Just like the allegory of the bird in the cage. No matter what nice care we take of this cage, we get a golden cage, get it all set with jewels and everything, we polish it and keep it clean and everything like that. But if we neglect to feed the bird that lives in the cage, then it's going to end up being an empty cage. It's actually going to end up being very sad. Yesterday, when Victor gave me a ride, actually both ways, there was a bird on Coelho Way, just outside our wall, that had been run over and was stuck to the road. And when I came walking back from the clinic after my second medical excursion yesterday, one of the neighbor ladies and her daughter they had a little bamboo broom rake, like a little bamboo leaf rake. and they were scraping up what they could of the bird off the road, you know. So it's just, that bird was just, it was just sad. It was just sad. So, you know, if we take great care of the cage but neglect the bird, after a while, we're just going to have a sad situation. Well, the bird's going to make her last tweet and just fall over dead at the bottom of the cage. Birdie with her feet up. I don't think they always lie like that, but you see it in the cartoons. So, if we neglect the soul is still going to accompany us into our next birth, our self. What is it the Buddhists say? Wherever you go, there you are. Right? We think we're going to change, or going to improve our lives by changing our situation, but wherever we go, we have our mind, we have our senses, these 6 enemies that we also heard about in this class last night. These 6 enemies, the mind and the 5 senses, these internal enemies. But the Bhagavatam has a different message. As we've pointed out a few times over the last week or so, several of us who've given class, Narada Muni is instructing Vyasadeva that you've created texts, so many texts for the upliftment for the advancement of human society, but it's all material advancement, at best toward some kind of liberation. So you've got the 4 Purusharthas covered, but what about the Panchama Purushartha? The ultimate goal of life, that one thing that has real value, placing before which all the things that you assign value to because they belong to you. Once you put that one in front of those, once you connect them with that one, with the Godhead, then they all have value, and they all have real value, real artha. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur once at Radhakund, maybe I think it was in 1932, so it might have been the last Raja Mandala Parikram. Jai Shri Pancha Tattva Ki Jai. It may have been on the last Raja Mandala Parikram that he led, and generally, when he did the Parikram around Vrindavan, when they spoke at Radhakund, he would give talks on Dhruva Charitra or Prahlada Charitra, speak from the 4th and 7th cantos, and wouldn't speak about, you know, Radha and Krishna's dalliances at lunchtime or in the evening, wouldn't talk about the rasa dance. But one year, 1932, which may have been his last Brajamandala Parikram, he said, must have been, because he died on the 31st of December, 32, wasn't it? Or no, it was 36. I have to go back to Bhakti Vikas Swami's book. But on one Brajamandala Parigram, he said, so far we've talked a lot about anartha nivritti. He said, but that's not the goal of life. This is after practicing for some time. I think he was saying, after practicing the chanting of Harinam for 15 or 20 years, we should be starting to think about the artha pravritti, that actual valuable thing which we may want to attain. And that is Krishna consciousness. That is service to Krishna. So the Bhagavatam comes, as I mentioned the other day, as a corrective to all these ideas, all the ideas that are given even in the Vedas, to the extent that they don't bring us to exclusive devotional service to Krishna. Otherwise, whatever we do is bound to be frustrated. So that's the Bhagavatam's message. Okay, I'll stop. I will give 1 minute. It's going to get me into 2 minutes of trouble.
A quick bird story. We had a canary that got out of the room and he flew into the fan and he had shredded tweet for a week. It was quite a traumatic experience.
Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam.
Didn't I see that on Twitter?
It might have been.